What is going on, everybody? Now, before I get into this video, I do want to make a quick announcement, and that is that due to the popularity of my previous two AAF videos that I put out, there is a demand on YouTube for good quality AAF related videos because very many people were intrigued by it, including me. I have a huge vested interest in this league as I am a season ticket holder for the Orlando Apollos, and I really want this league to succeed. So hopefully I can almost serve as a brand ambassador for the AAF, and I can also give out some AAF content if you guys want it. So I'm going to start posting out more AAF videos for you guys. So if that's something you guys are interested, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and ring that notification button so you get notified every single time I drop a video. Now let's go ahead and get into this, man. We have 4 games coming up this weekend, and all these games, I will say, are I've been having a lot of questions on people asking, you know, I couldn't watch this game because I don't have cable. I don't know where to watch this. Literally, I found every single game on YouTube, and if you're watching this video, you obviously have YouTube. So all you have to do is when the games are going on, type in AAF or type in the teams that are playing, and you're more than likely to find a live stream video on there. So you guys can watch the games on there. Another thing I want to kind of say before I get into this is really I hope this week that these games are a little more competitive, and I hope there's a little bit more action when it comes to lead changes. It seemed like last week the teams kind of got up and kind of pulled away either early or late. I'm really hoping this week it's a little bit more back and forth and we have a little bit better along those lines. And I do expect that. I do expect the offense offensive play to get better as the league goes along. And I'm really hoping for a successful week 2 after I was really enthralled by week 1. So let's go ahead and get into the first game. The first game kicks off Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time as the 0-1 Salt Lake Stallions face on the Birmingham Iron, who sit at 1-0. Now, the Salt Lake Stallions last week are probably the most impressive loss. They were the most impressive team that lost last week. They lost by a score of 38-22. But when you combine the Salt Lake Stallions points scored versus the other 3 teams in the league, you know, the Salt Lake Stallions scored 22, while the other 3 losers scored a combined 6 points. So this is really the only team that put up any bit of offense. Now, they are dealing with a little bit of quarterback injuries. The first half, Josh Woodrum played, and he didn't play the second half due to a hamstring injury. So in the second half, Matt Linehan came in there. And, you know, when Josh Woodrum is in the game, the game was basically, they were only down 19-16. But then in the second half, they got outscored 19-6. So that's kind of what happened with that game. The ultimate killer of this game was that they were able to kind of move the ball a lot, but they wound up having 3 turnovers, which really hurt. And also the defense allowed 416 yards to a very high-powered Arizona hotshot offense, and they allowed Rashad Ross to get 103 yards and 2 touchdown passes. The bad thing for the Stallions is that the quarterback play is not going to drop off much. You know, they have to play Luis Perez of the Birmingham Iron, who played really well last week against the Memphis Express. Luis Perez is a guy who spent some time under Sean McVay over in the Rams during the preseason before getting cut, and he helped lead the Birmingham Iron to a 26-0 victory last week against the Express. So, I mean, Luis Perez, when you looked at his numbers, he was 19 for 33, 58% completion percentage. He had through 252 yards and also like 0 touchdowns versus 0 interceptions. Although, you know, the stats really aren't all that impressive, but he definitely looked better if you actually watched the game live. You also had really one of the marquee names of the league, Trent Richardson, play for the Iron, and Trent Richardson, he really didn't have all that great of a game. Now, his game was kind of saved at the end when he put the ball in the end zone twice for 2 touchdowns. On 23 carries, he only had 58 yards rushing. That's only 2.5 yards per carry, and he even had 1 fumble that game. And one thing I do want to say is he spiked the ball after scoring a touchdown this game, and there was a penalty for an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty due to the ball going into the end zone, which a lot of people were like, why the heck did that happen? Why is that a penalty? This is going into the NFL no fun league type of thing. Well, the reason why that is because all these footballs are actually microchipped with really expensive technology. I mean, they've got microchips in the balls to basically detect ball speed, to detect like revolutions in a ball and all that kind of stuff. So really, there's a lot of expensive technology inside of these balls, and they obviously don't want to lose them. So, you know, these balls probably cost several $100s, probably even over $1,000. So they're probably trying to preserve these balls and not let them get into fans' hands. So I just want to clear that up about that's why that was a penalty on that. But, you know, they had a lot of good kind of productivity, not only on the defense but on offense. I mean, Quentin Patman had 4 receptions for 107 yards, over 25 yards per carry or per reception. That's really good. The defense for the Irons shut out the Memphis Express. They made Christian Hackenberg look lost last week. I mean, whopping 0 points that they held him to. The defense is full of Alabama and like Auburn players playing out there in Birmingham. So just a lot of SEC type of players that are used to, you know, playing really good defense. Now, one thing about this team is that they hit the injury bug pretty big. They had a tight end get down in the injured reserve. They had 3 players not practice this week. They had 5 players that were limited. You know, if you break down the numbers of this, you know, you have a 50-man roster. You lose 9 players didn't practice this week or whatever due to injury. You know, you take out the 1 player that got suspended from the league due to like a prostitution charge. You also take out, you know, the 2 special teamers between the kicker and punter. You had a total of 38 players really practice this week. That's not a lot of players. The injury bug has hit them pretty big. So, you know, hopefully they prevail and hopefully this doesn't hold back the Iron too much. But this is going to be a really intriguing matchup, I think, and really any team has a chance to win this game. Now, the second game of the Saturday slate, we have the Arizona Hotshots coming in at 1-0. Facing the Memphis Express, who are 0-1 after last week's game, like I just said. You know, Arizona last week scored 38 points while Memphis scored 0 points. So quite the differential when it comes to offensive production. The Arizona Hotshots quarterback, John Wolford, was the first offensive player of the week in this league. He was 18 for 29, 62% completion percentage, 275 yards passing, and 4 touchdown passes. This guy was incredible, and he was having a really good time throwing the ball out to wide receiver Rashad Ross, who tacked on 103 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. So really impressive week for the Hotshots, while not so impressive for the Memphis Express. You know, Memphis Express was kind of a team that was kind of looked upon in brighter eyes just because Mike Singletary is their head coach. He's one of the more marquee head coaches of the league. He's one of the more recognizable guys, but his team did not look very good. A lot of it was because of quarterback play. Christian Hackenberg, the former second-round pick from the Jets, who bounced around the league for a little bit, never had a single NFL action at all, even though he's been held on rosters. He was 10 for 23, 43% completion percentage, 87 yards with 1 interception. So not good at all. He wound up being benched for Brandon Silvers later on in this game. And I mean, the offense wasn't doing anything. The leading rusher only had the leading receiver only had 33 yards. So not impressive through the pass game, although Zach Stacy was good this game. He had 12 carries for 58 yards and 4.8 yards per carry. So I will say this about the Express. The defense actually played pretty well. They just got too tired. I mean, they were only down 9-0 at the start of the 4th quarter. But bend but don't break. They finally broke. The offense wasn't doing anything. The offense kept setting them up in bad field position, and then they wound up just taking away the game. Now, I will say this. A lot of people are going to write off the Memphis Express this game. I actually think they have a legit chance. And here's what they got to do. They've got to really set up the pass through the run. Zach Stacy had a really good game. He looked like he had natural ability to really find holes, to find the gaps, to really bust through them. And, you know, I thought he played really well. So I really think you're going to have to really establish the run with Zach Stacy to be able to set up for the pass. Just take the ball out of Hackenberg's hands and also drain some clock so you're not giving the ball to John Wolford and Arizona Hotshots, you know, passing attack this game. And you just had to control the time of possession, play great defense like you did last game, and not wear your defense out and just let Zach Stacy really dominate the run game. And I think Mike Singletary will come up with a better game plan this game than he had last week. So I actually think that the Memphis Express will upset the Arizona Hotshots this game. Now, the first game on Sunday will be at 4 p.m. Eastern Time as the 1-0 Orlando Apollos will face on the 1-0 San Antonio Commanders. The only battle of undefeated teams so far. So one of these teams is going to go 2-0. And the other team is going to be 1-1. So this will be an awesome matchup. Orlando destroyed Atlanta last week, beating them by a score of 40-6. Really, it kind of took some time for Orlando's offense to really get going. It was only 3-0 in the first quarter. They were actually down 3-0 in the first quarter, but they exploded for 22 points in the second quarter. And really, at the end of the first half, when they did that Orlando Philly special, whatever you want to call it, and they got up on by a score of like 22-3 or 6 or something like that, you really did not feel like Atlanta had any kind of shot. I mean, Steve Spurrier's offense was firing all kinds of cylinders. They were able to run the ball, they were able to pass the ball, very versatile, and the defense just strangled the Atlanta offense and just didn't let them do anything. Garrett Gilbert had a really good game. He was 15 for 25, 60% completion percentage, 227 yards passing, and 2 touchdowns, while Akeem Hunt had 10 carries for 73 yards at 7.3 yards per pop, and he was really exciting to watch too. Very shifty back. He had a good game. He was able to see holes very well, and the offensive line actually opened up holes for him pretty well. Defense was really led by Terrence Garvin, who had led the team in tackles with 10, also had 2 interceptions with 1 touchdown. So that was really good. And the San Antonio side of the ball, they're also a team that played great defense. They held the San Diego Fleet to only 6 points last game, and it was a defensive battle. I mean, the score, they wound up winning that game 15-6, but the score at the end of the third quarter was 6-6. So that game was close all throughout it. They didn't really have as much offensive production as Orlando, but they have a really good defense. Apparently, the home attendance for that game was like 27,000. The fans were rowdy. They were having a good time. San Antonio is so starving for football, and they're a good football city. So they're a team that's led by Logan Woodside, who threw the ball a lot last game. He had 36 total passing attempts. He completed half of those passes for 255 yards. But the big thing about the San Antonio Commanders was that they had 2 interceptions. They were turning the ball over. They couldn't complete drives. So this game, they looked to really be able to capitalize on the offense, play as a better unit, and I would expect them to. I would expect offensive lines and quarterback playing, just offenses in general, to get better as the league goes along and as they start to gel a little bit more. Now, the final game of that Sunday is going to kick off at 8 p.m. Eastern Time as the Atlanta Legends, coming in at 0-1, will take on the San Diego Fleet, who is also 0-1. The battle of the defeated teams, as one of these teams will pull out with their first victory. Now, both of these teams are having kind of quarterback issues. The Atlanta Legends, I mean, Matt Sims was horrible last game. And then Aaron Murray came in a little later on. He looked bad. Those guys combined for 3 interceptions. And, you also look at the San Diego Fleet. Mike Bercovici didn't do very well. He wound up being bitched for Philip Nelson, who will actually start this next game. So Mike Bercovici, the guy who got hammered in that really the first viral video of the AAF this season, will be starting the second game. And you can almost understand San Diego's quarterback issues because they had the first overall pick in the AAF quarterback draft, and they wound up drafting Josh Johnson, who wound up being signed as the 4th quarterback over for the Washington Redskins, who actually had a couple wins over there as a Redskins quarterback, but his services are no longer leading with San Diego, as he's with the Washington Redskins right now, and it's hurting San Diego as they're obviously on their 3rd quarterback that they expected to really be on. So they're having their own kind of quarterback issues when it comes to that end. And also Atlanta, I mean, they're almost a mess in themselves. I mean, it may not necessarily be the quarterback thing, even though they expected to start Aaron Murray when they drafted him, but he wound up being not really performing all that well, and they wound up playing Matt Sims instead of him, which really pissed off a lot of Georgia Bulldog fans. Is all those guys, if you look at Atlanta Legends Twitter page, I mean, it's a joke. All of them want Aaron Murray to play because all of them are Georgia fans. But you know, you looked at them. Brad Childress stepped down, and I believe in December, he was their head coach. Then later on, Michael Vick, who was their offense coordinator, dropped out in January. So there's really, it's kind of obvious to see why their kind of offense struggled a little bit. You know, their leading rusher only had like 32 yards last week, and their leading receiver only had 43 yards. I mean, their offense couldn't get going as the Orlando Apollos just suffocated them, and their defense, you know, in the second quarter just allowed a bunch of points. So they never really had much of a chance to play that game or to really do well that game. While the San Diego Fleet did look a little bit better, even though they didn't put up all that many points. Obviously, they only put up 6 points, but they moved the ball pretty well. But the thing that hurt them was the 3 turnovers. So, you know, this game, it's looking like San Diego was probably the better team, but really, any team can win this game. Like, I honestly think the Atlanta Legends are probably the worst in this league. So we're going to learn a lot in week 2. I know we only have 1 week of a sample size, so we're basically ranking how we really feel about these teams through that. But I think this week there'll be a lot of surprises, and it's going to be a really fun week to watch. So yeah, those are kind of my previews for week 2 of the AAF season. If you guys enjoyed the video, please drop a like. Please subscribe to the channel for future AAF content, as I'm like really excited about this league. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Go Apollos. Take aim.